Great. I'd like to call to order the Communications and Water Efficiency Committee meeting of the Marin Water District on August 21st, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. Director Larry Russell.
Here.
And Vice Chair Jed Smith.
Here. Great. And then ask for any public comment on adoption of the agenda.
There are none.
Great. And Larry, if you could make a motion to adopt the agenda, that'd be great, please.
Sure. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Yeah, second. Any public comments on items not on the agenda?
There are none.
Okay, terrific. So we'll go on to regular items. The first one is item 4A. Carrie, why don't you take us away with the water efficiency update?
If I may, Chair Smith,
Yep.
just point out 4A is the minutes, but I think we wanted to table that to
Yep.
a future meeting, and we'll come back to those when we have a full quorum.
Carrie, you're 4B, 4A we are putting off, and then 4B is all you.
Sounds good. All right, let's see if I can get this to share. Okay, good morning. Carrie Pollard, Water Efficiency Manager, and I'm providing the water efficiency update. So we have kind of two main items. We're going to go through some annual reporting. One is a year in review, recognizing that we just adopted the Water Efficiency Master Plan and we want to do a fiscal year reporting. And so we'll kind of step through the last fiscal year. And we'll also go through the state regulations, the Making Conservation a California Way of Life regulations, which are also reported on a fiscal year basis. So we have some data to share there. And then close out with some initiatives to focus our outreach efforts. Starting with annual reporting. So some highlights for our year in review. So we received 2 awards during the last fiscal year. So these, of course, were not our first awards, but it was so nice to be recognized, with our industry leading program. And we were recognized through the EPA WaterSense Excellence Award, and also the Irrigation Association for Outstanding Public Engagement Award. And we actually just recently heard that we've applied for the WaterSense Award, and it looks like we're in the running for receiving something similar this year coming up as well. So that's really exciting to continue that recognition. Moving on to some action items, just getting the master plan adopted, right, was a heavy lift, and that was a kind of a really important milestone as we move forward. Another important item worth noting is the $700,000 grant that we've received in partnership with Sonoma Water. That agreement's finally been signed. It was awarded a few years ago, but there's been a lot of paperwork, but we finally are at the point where we can start moving forward on utilizing those funds. And so we can look forward to that in the coming year as well.
Just ask a question. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Well, I just wanted to share because Carrie is sharing the awards in somewhat of a modest fashion. To me, I know what they mean. They're very competitive industry awards. Everyone wants them to share with their board and the public. And the fact that we continue to receive them validates the industry leading program that we have and the recognition throughout California, the region in California and beyond, of what we're doing in terms of water conservation. So really nice work, Carrie.
Thank you. Appreciate
I'll second that. Really proud, and I know you're not trying to toot your own horn, but really phenomenal job. And we are all proud of what we're doing, and we'll continue to try to do better and better. On the Sonoma grant, can you give us a little more color on how you're working with Sonoma, how you're partnering with them on what they're doing, and how we're learning from each other?
Yeah, sure. So Sonoma Water, as our wholesaler, submits grant applications on behalf of all of the member agencies. If you would, we refer to ourselves as the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership. And so we get a component of that overall grant submittal that they put in. And as a group, we decide what types of programs we think are most appropriate for the region to submit on, what we anticipate the water savings to be, and the amount of funding that we all each anticipate that we would need to include in that grant request. Sonoma Water handles the grant application, the reporting, all of that. And so it's really a pass-through agreement. The money goes to them and then it gets passed through to us, although they handle a lot of the administrative aspects, which makes it great for us to receive those funds and then to kind of take that lead. Yeah.
So it's all part of the Sonoma Marin partnership that I believe when you were working there, you set up this entire program, this regional collaboration, and it's still working well.
It was my baby for many, many years. Yes. it is nice to see it continue to flourish and receive grant funding in a meaningful way for the partners. Moving on to our incentive programs. So I wanted, right, within the Water Efficiency Master Plan, we have goals that we've established for levels of participation each year within our incentive programs. And so if you look at the first column, of course, is the name of the program. The second column is the annual participation goal and what we're shooting for. The third column is our actual participation. And then we have the cumulative savings. So this is the savings that are as a result of these programs. And some of these programs, like smart irrigation controllers, we pay for that incentive in year one, but we continue to achieve savings, in future years. And so that's why it says cumulative acre feet savings. So it's a snapshot of fiscal year 2024, but those cumulative savings going back starting in 2020, when we kind of started developing this Water Efficiency Master Plan and these annual goals. We did make some program improvements, right? We started our Rainbird distribution, which is a smart irrigation controller distribution program in partnership with Flume. We've sunsetted some of our programs that were outdated. We've had a very successful partnership with EO distributing rain barrels. If you look at the rain barrel line item, our goal was 15,000 gallons. We installed or distributed both. It's a combination there of over 34,000 gallons. A third of those 34,000 is from the EO partnership. So we still would have exceeded our target, but that just really, it's kind of an easy low hanging fruit, if you would. It's a really easy program, but it's seen a lot of really quality benefits in a short time period, right? We only started that discussion with them in like April. And so we can.
So that's EO products in San Rafael.
EO products rain barrels that we're
Wonderful.
distributing. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great. And then we also installed 300 AMI meters on our highest water users, right? We in the past had targeted high water users, but we redid that analysis and said, okay, well, who's our next highest water users? And can we get those folks on AMI as we start to chip away at really targeting those high water users?
Can you give us a sense of how we're measuring success of those installations? Or I know we have a program manager starting fairly soon, and maybe that's early to ask it, but are we measuring whether these are helping?
Yeah, we hope to, right? I mean, they've only been installed for 3 months now for those 300 AMI high water use meters. And so it takes a little bit of time to, convey that information to those customers, make sure they understand the access and all of that. But I understand the program manager will provide that as part of their update. So they've kind of taken that on as, but just recognizing it does benefit our program as well.
Specifically, it's next month, I believe. Craig, our new program manager, will be coming to the board, providing an update on where we are scheduled, but also talking about the pilots and how they're going.
I'm just saying firsthand experience has changed my entire view of how to save water. So it's great.
That's great. I'll just also note that there's a few that don't have participation goals, the bottom 4. 2 of those, right, those are the programs we've ended, and we didn't have goals because we knew we wanted to kind of sunset those programs. The Flume program doesn't have a goal because we want to transition to AMI, right? And we wanted to, I think, be realistic about what we're anticipating the water savings would be. And finally, hot water circulation systems, while they're beneficial to those who install them, the water savings overall is difficult to quantify. There's not a lot of participation. There's not actually a lot of savings associated with those. But we do want to count the savings that we achieve from having the program in place. So no goal, but certainly, if we can quantify the savings, we're going to include it on our list because it just helps us appreciate the value of the program we're implementing. So we did have a board request to look at some of our gateway programs and kind of what is the outcome and what's the real value add, and can we quantify the value add for what we're calling these gateway programs? These would be things like gray water, rainwater, and even Flume. So we looked at program participation back from 2020 forward, and we analyzed each of these 3 programs referring to as gateway programs. So starting with gray water, we had 59 participants, and 22% of those folks participated in one other program, and 10% participated in 2 or 3 other programs. And this is pretty consistent when we looked at rain barrels as well. Slightly lower on the 2 to 3 programs, kind of beyond the 1, but nevertheless, in that 20% range. What I found was really interesting is I would have anticipated Flume actually being a higher percent than those other 2, because someone could install it and say, wow, I didn't realize my, landscape was using so much more water. Or I didn't realize, there are other changes that they could make that are informed by the flume data, but it actually was lower than rain barrel and gray water at 14%, and then 5% for 2 or 3 other programs. When we did look at the flume program participant data, the 3 main programs that folks participated in after they installed the flume were Cash for Grass, which means our turf replacement program, our Ratio program, and Rainbird. So I'm still kind of driving folks to the more higher savings programs. And this is something we'll continue to look at and kind of dig into it in a more meaningful way to look at, gray water and rainwater. Where did those other subsequent programs, was it turf, right? Those kind of things. So just know that we are kind of starting to kind of go down this path and trying to understand and quantify what those benefits are for those higher cost, lower savings programs that are actually driving folks to the more meaningful programs. Moving on to kind of a progress report. So looking at water savings, I mentioned we started in 2020, where it's kind of our baseline, if you will, the year we're starting to quantify the savings from moving forward. And looking at our carryover savings, right? Those are those savings recognizing, right? Implementing a program today will actually continue to save water tomorrow, and we want to count those savings. So that would be the blue bar on this graph. And the orange is the annual additional savings that we're seeing each year. And so you can see during the drought years, it was pretty significant, those increase in annual savings. And as we know, program participation has slightly declined in the last couple of years. And as a result, those additional annual savings in the orange bars also, getting smaller. And we look forward to continuing to kind of build on any opportunity we can to increase the savings. So overall, we're at like 591 acre feet cumulative savings in 2024, and the active savings is about 76 acre feet. You can see there where the majority of the savings were attributed to, of course, are high benefit programs. No surprise. We recognize that not all of our programs are quantifiable, right? Not all, we can attempt to quantify and get an estimate on savings from incentives, but overall, looking at overall water use district-wide really helps us tell the story of, how impactful not only our programs, but also our customers, just water awareness and how they're using water day to day. And so you can see from 22, 23, 24, we are starting to see a very slight uptick. Similar to kind of the increase we saw in 2010, 11, and 12. Let's see if I can get this over, right? So the kind of this range here, we kind of started to see in 16, 17, and then there was a huge jump. So we've avoided that. So that's great. But we're just recognizing we do anticipate a rebound. We've always seen a rebound, but overall, there's a downward trend in water use when we look all the way back from 1996 forward. And so, still gains to be had, but, moving in the right direction overall. So now I'm going to move on to the state regulation. So the Making Conservation a California Way of Life is how it's often referred to. This is establishing water use objectives for each water utility in the state, and it was adopted by the state board on July 3rd of this year. The initial reporting will be for fiscal year 24, which just ended, and that's due January 1st, so at the end of the year. Although compliance doesn't begin until January 1, 2027. So we have a few years to, one, continue to collect the data that the state's requiring, and two, kind of understand overall what changes, not just us, but water utilities across state, what changes they may need to make to be compliant in 2027. So compliance will be determined by kind of 4 key components, these target areas that the state's calling them. It's indoor and outdoor residential water use, large landscape, commercial, industrial, institutional landscapes, that's what CII stands for, and water loss. So when we talk about the CII, large CII landscapes, that's really referring to our dedicated irrigation meters, right? So our parks and schools and businesses that have large landscapes. So I'm going to walk through kind of each of these subcategories and give an overview on kind of how we're doing, we were doing in FY24 based on the state standards. So starting with our residential indoor objective, the way the state's calculating this is that we take the population of the year, we take the indoor standard, which is a progressive standard that changes 3 times within the legislation, and the 3 times are noted there in the sub-bullets, and then multiply it the number of days per year. Last year was a leap year, yay. And so we have our progressive standard. So for this current year, we're assigned 55 gallons per capita per day indoor use per the state. That's what they've deemed efficient as of today. When we look at our winter consumption, just as a comparison, for fiscal year 24, we were at 47 gallons per capita per day. And so winter consumption is kind of the best proxy we have, short of our flume data, which is, you know, a subset of our customers. And so just, you know, the state doesn't look at flume data. They actually don't even look at winter consumption. They say you get 55 gallons per person per day. And that's, you know, kind of an amount that's assigned, you know, for your organization. So when we do the math and say 55 gallons per day for our population, you can see there's 11,546 acre feet is what the state has determined to be our indoor objective. Okay. Second component is our residential outdoor objective. So this irrigated area. So this is a landscape area measurement, essentially. ETO, which is reference evapotranspiration, weather data, and an efficiency factor. And you can see the state also has progressive efficiency factors that ratchet down every 5 years or so, meaning that the state's allowing less water to be applied to the landscape as we go through into 2040. So when we do the calculation for the outdoor objective as assigned by the state, we're at about 9,289 acre feet. So we add those two together, and that becomes our residential target. And that is that top FY24 state residential target. So then we compare that to our residential consumption, right? Because the state doesn't know, you know, if we're at 47 GPCD, they're saying you get 55 and here's your target. So how does that compare to your actual deliveries? And we're at 28% less than the state target, which is impressive. And there's a couple of things that I think are important. One is we know our GPCD is nowhere near 55. We know it's much less, right? So we're getting a little bit of extra credit from the indoor that's applying to the outdoor, right? And so that's definitely helping us. But even if we run that same calculation for our current indoor use at like 35, we're still compliant, right? So I think we're really on a really good track. We also looked at, well, if we look out to 2040, how would we be doing? If we take the same calculation and we compare it to this year's consumption, but using the most stringent standards the state has assigned, we're still 2% less than the state target. So when we look at residential indoor use, it's the things we've been talking about. We're doing really well there. Which is great, right? Kudos.
This is great. I haven't seen this before. So thank you for bringing it. And I love the fact that they're measuring gallons per capita per day. I'd love to see us articulate that to our customers so they know it. I do it all the time when people say my water bill is high. I'm like, well, how many kids do you have in the house and how many dogs? And, you know, what's the size of your lawn? So I think the more people can think about this, the better. And I don't know, Adrian, we brought it up many times about how to look at our water bill and simplify the data on it because there's gallons per day, there's units, there's a bunch of different metrics. I'd love to find a way that we can articulate or at least highlight this as being a target for people's homes and that they can understand it. I guess my question for maybe next time is how do we compare with other districts and you know, it sure looks great. Who's doing better? What I'm most impressed with is the fact that we are largely single family houses with a lot of outdoor irrigation. So the fact that we're given our population and our customer base, which is not industrial and very different than other folks, the fact that we're able to keep our outdoor use at this level is pretty impressive. So any other data would be helpful of like districts.
That's a great question. It's a good segue for like 5 slides in front of. We'll get there in just a moment. All right, moving on to our large landscape, which is commercial, industrial, and institutional targets. So these are sites, as I mentioned, that have dedicated irrigation meters. And the way that the calculation would be per the state is that we take the dedicated irrigation area, so the landscape area, again, multiply that by the weather, multiply that by a progressive efficiency factor that gets more stringent as the years go forward. And that comes up with our landscape objective. So the state is going to provide the dedicated irrigation landscape area measurements by 2028. So we don't have that calculation yet. So we don't have a way to actually do this, analysis, so to speak. So what the state is saying is that between now and 2028, whatever you deliver to your dedicated irrigation meter customers is your state objective. So for now, our state objective. So of course we're compliant because one equals the other, but we'll know more as they provide that data. And they are hoping to get it to us before 2028, so we can kind of again, right? 27 is when compliance begins. We need to have that data as soon as possible, and they are apparently working on it. So not a lot there. Water loss targets. So the state calculated our water loss target based on our average reporting water loss between 2017 and 2020. Future compliance will be based on a 3-year average. They just recognize that water loss can somewhat fluctuate depending on a number of different factors. And so the 3-year average is how it will actually be, compliance will be determined. For Marin Water, the state assigned water loss objective is 28.5 gallons per connection per day. And in FY23, we met that. It was actually exactly 28.5 gallons per connection per day. And we're still doing the analysis for the FY24. Again, it's not due until January, so it's currently under development. I'll just note that we are doing a water loss study.
Yeah.
And we looked at revamp.
Yeah,
our
I'm just
water loss
curious to
program.
give you a chance to
Yeah.
catch up. But how we determine where the losses are coming from and where the opportunities are to save there would be helpful.
That's
Is
what
this evaporation, leaks, or,
Right, that's what the study is, I think we're looking at there as well. The state has a set standard
Yep.
for reporting, but the analysis should help us dive into that.
Yeah, this is leak. So this is downstream of the evaporation calculation. So this really is primarily leaks. And what we do know in any pressurized pipe system, you're going to have leaks. It's underground and aged. But yeah, we'll be bringing to the board what our water loss study has found and recommendations going forward to tighten it up.
Sorry, just on that, because I remember I reported about a year ago a leak that I saw, and it was like about a gallon a minute, and it was like 3 months before we were going to be able to fix it, given other priorities that we had. And I was just talking with a friend who had reported a leak in their street in Mill Valley, and it had been a year, and it had been still going on. I think it's hard to understand how big these leaks are and how many we're dealing with. And we have had some reporting, but what rises to the level of emergency, and then how many do we have?
It's really a good question. And I think maybe the way to do it, we'll track the question. And when we bring the water loss, we'll bring the statistics and the underlying, we have class 1, class 2, class 3, and how we think about it and prioritize.
All right, so those are the 4 key components that we report on as far as amount of water delivered to our customers. But you may note for our commercial, industrial, institutional customers, we're really only focusing on the dedicated irrigation meter. So the state has additional requirements for everyone else, so to speak. So there's a performance measures that are required per the state, and this is a classification of all of our business accounts into 22 predetermined categories. So the ultimate goal here would be to say, well, how much does a hospital use, not just for Marin Water, but across the state? Like, what is a range that's realistic so that ultimately the state can set standards for, different types of commercial businesses as well, similar to what they did for residential customers and dedicated irrigation meter customers. This is required to be done by June of 2027. And then all of these commercial accounts, if don't have a dedicated irrigation meter, they then have a mixed use meter, meaning that water goes to their landscaping and to whatever the business function may be. The state's requiring that any site with half an acre or more of landscaping, which we'll know once they give us the data, the landscape measurement data, either need to be assigned a water budget. Any site with half an acre or more needs to be assigned a water budget. And then we either need to convert them to a dedicated irrigation meter or employ in lieu technology to estimate, analyze, and identify how much water they're using outdoors and kind of what they should be doing to increase the efficiency. Converting a mixed use meter to a dedicated irrigation meter is incredibly costly. right? Think about a school that's, built and then added on and added on, and that's on a mixed use meter. Going through and separating that out will be a challenge, not just for us, but everyone across the state, which is why this in lieu technology was included in the legislation, recognizing that it doesn't make sense for every site. And then there's best management practices, right? Outreach and education, specific incentives, and landscape BMPs. So the state's kind of being very specific about kind of the things they want from us. And again, this legislation goes out to 2040. So this is kind of a long-term, what their expectations are. Another piece of the legislation is water efficiency studies. So this is that comparison, exactly what you're asking for, Director Smith, of how do we compare to others? We've been fortunate that the state DWR has tapped us to be part of the statewide study using Flume data to look at residential water use. So us and 50 other utilities will be participating in the study. One piece of it is looking at, well, is the indoor GPCD that the state established that stops in 2030, can that continue to be ratcheted down? The other piece is, what is the outdoor water use? How realistic is it? How do you compare winter consumption, which is what water utilities have, to indoor GPCD? And how does that make sense, right? So these are the kind of things that the study is really looking at. In addition, the Water Research Foundation is updating the 2016 residential end use water study. So this is something that Peter Mayer, who's spoken to the board a number of times, has been the lead author on. They've been tapped once again to do this national study, and they've asked us to participate too. So great opportunity for us to get some comparisons to others, understand programs, or, it'll be a full analysis of us and others. So it's exciting. So in summary, for our annual reporting, our current efforts align with the state regulations with accelerated implementation. You may recall in the master plan, we were looking at establishing water budgets for our commercial customers in, basically doing what the state's asking, but just doing it in an accelerated fashion. Our residential per capita water use based on winter consumption is 47, well below the current state standards. Our water savings are cumulative water savings are 591 acre feet. The state water use reduction standards for sectors with this. So we are exceeding the state goals, right, with our established for sectors that have been established with goals. And we know there's more work to be done. So we'll continue going through that. And then wrapping up with the incentives, lots of incentive talk, initiatives to focus our outreach efforts. So we looked at mapping some data, right? We wanted to see, looked at what is available data that we have that we can inform targeted. We use to inform our targeted outreach. And of course, we have billing consumption data. We're focusing on our residential customers. And then we also have the state provided landscape area measurements, right? Which kind of breaks out not only turf area, but pools, tree canopy, and total landscape area. So we put together some maps to kind of help tell the story and convey kind of where there might be opportunities for us to focus. So we broke out the district into kind of 15 distinct areas with about 3,200 customers in each area. And we looked at their average billing use for last fiscal year. And the range is from 10 CCF to 30 CCF. So quite a significant range there. The majority of these distinct areas, 75% of them, have an average use of 15 CCF or less. So much of the service area is doing quite well, right, when we look at it that way. And this is bi-monthly billing data, of course. And we use the average because when we looked at even the like the summer use, and we also looked at the winter use, the ranking was exactly the same, right? So the range shifted, the scale shifted, but the ranking was exactly the same. And we thought, okay, well, we have this data, and we also have landscape area measurement data. So what can we glean from putting those two together? So we also looked at average lawn areas. And we noticed that the highest water users don't always have the most turf. I think a good example of this is like Forest Knoll, San Geronimo area. They had very low water use, but their landscape area measurements as far as turf is quite high.
That's because Phil Sauter's knocking on their doors and making sure
Right.
they're good.
Right. I mean, you think about it, right? Of course, weather has a lot to do with it, right? It's cooler there. So climate, we know climate has an influence on it. But another, and then the other three areas that have the highest water use do in fact have quite a bit of turf. So, that aligns. Another piece is the tree canopy, right? That these are aerial measurements. And so, how, we recognize that accuracy may be limited in these areas with a lot of tree canopy. So we looked at the landscape areas with the highest percentage of trees. Areas like Mill Valley have a high percentage of tree on the average of the landscape area, but not a lot of turf coming through there, right? But then Ross, Fairfax, and San Geronimo also have quite a bit of trees. But again, San Geronimo has quite a bit of turf, and so the discussion here is really just to kind of say, like, we're looking into the data. We're trying to slice and dice it in different ways to really understand where our focus should be. We also thought it was interesting that 50% of the lawns are in 4 distinct areas. And so that just helps us kind of narrow down where we should be marketing. Another piece we could look at is how many folks are participating in our turf rebate programs in those distinct areas as well. And so we're just kind of starting to kind of delve into this, but we think it's going to be hopefully really fruitful and help inform communications, right? Like, these are the areas we want to focus and what we think will be useful. So just the start, but just kind of a little bit of a teaser of some of the data we've been looking at. So just wrapping up with next steps, we'll continue implementing the master plan and provide annual progress reports at the end of each fiscal year. We'll track implementation of the state regulatory requirements, and as new data comes from the state, we'll incorporate those into our analysis to make sure that we are in fact on the right track, right? It looks like right now we're doing great, and so we want to just maintain that. And then finally, utilizing data to inform and focus our efforts. With that, any questions?
Yeah, Larry, any thoughts, questions, comments?
Well, only one. That data is very interesting in that map of the water usage. It looks to me like you probably need to include something like average income. The two areas, the Tiburon Peninsula and Ross, are interesting. I think you're right. It gives potential there. The Tiburon Peninsula, and I don't know what percentage it is, but it's closing in on 50% have AMI. So I maybe you could check, Carrie, on what percentage of those with AMI who are tuned into the district, actually using the benefits of AMI. Maybe we could put on a little education video or something to send to them.
Great, thank you.
Great. Well, first of all, want to appreciate your tremendous work and the staff's tremendous work on the master plan. I know that was not insignificant, and it does set some really clear goals. And I love this report. I thought it's as thoughtful and data oriented as we've seen, and action oriented. So I really appreciate it. I am curious about, I think you had another 380 something AMI meters that you're planning to add. How do you figure out how many more to add or not? And I know we'll get into that in a month, but maybe as our program manager reports in, I'd love to figure out how many more we can or want to add and where we put them. I love the map data that Phil's been asking for that for a while, and I think we're getting better and better at it. So that's a super thoughtful way to target our marketing. And it is great to see clear state goals on gallons per capita per day, and incorporating that into our communications, I think would be super helpful. Any public comments, Terry?
Yes, we have a few.
Okay.
Jack, Phil Sauter, I believe. Jack and then Phil Sauter.
Circling back to the comment about water use, I've noticed it's been emphasized sometimes that the downside of people using less water is it decreases the revenues for Marin Municipal Water District, and in the long run requires rate raises. The important fact to always remember is conservation, although it costs money, is always the cheapest approach to drought and costs considerably less money than any of the projects such as desalination or a new pipe for more Russian River water or the Alpine Dam raise or any of that. So it's always important to remember, while it costs money and decreases revenues, it's always the least expensive option. So if anything, we should look at it positively from a financial perspective.
Mr. Phil Sauter.
Thank you very much for this report. Every time I see a water efficiency report, they just get better and better, and I really appreciate it. I like the focus on the high water users, the top 500 or whatever. I'm not sure what percentage of our total usage they are, but obviously they'd be a disproportionate share. And I wonder if it would be of interest to the board and maybe the public, and you're probably already doing this, is to plot the curves between summer usage and winter usage. So we can kind of see what the bulge is in the summer. I remember looking at some of the monthly numbers that the State Water Resources Board collects from all water agencies. And Marin always seemed to be doing a really good job on the indoor water use, but we would peak higher in the summer. Our curve would go up. And it seemed to me like a good strategy for conservation would be to concentrate on the high water users and to see how to flatten the curve overall. I have a feeling the high water users are using a lot of summer water, and that could be a focus. I mean, over the last couple of years, what I've seen is you're really narrowing your focus, but increasing the impact of the people you look at and the programs that you have. So I really thank you for that. If it would be possible to do some kind of a trend of the curve. We did that when we were working on that tank project. We went back about 50 years, and there was a time when Marin water users would do 75% more water in the summer than they did on average. And over the course of like 30 or 40 years, that went down to 100 to 50% more, which was kind of a very gradual but steady flattening of the curve. And I just wonder how much more that can be flattened. So anyway, thank you for digging deep into the data. And I really think there's more stories in there that the board and the public would love to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ed Jamison, please. Never mind. Go ahead. Oh, good.
No more?
No more.
Okay. Great. So this is information only. Thank you, Carrie. Super appreciate it. And looking forward to the follow-up with AMI in a month. Now we'll move on to 4C, which is our outreach activities, and Adrian Mertens.
All right. Sorry. Touchy mouse, touchy mic. Good morning, Director Russell, Director Smith, Adrian Mertens, Communications Public Affairs Manager. Here, as Director Smith introduced, to provide communications activities update. Before I start, just want to mention I had gone back and looked, and it was actually in February of 2023 was the last time that I provided a much broader communications activities update focused on priority areas throughout the district. We've really been focused on, for the last year and a half, specifically on our water efficiency outreach efforts, which was super important as we were working on development and implementation of the master plan, and then pivoting to more targeted outreach to our high water using customers. To educate them and take a new approach with strategizing around promotion of our rebates and incentives. But it felt timely for this committee meeting to provide a broader update, as we've got a number of priority projects going on for different areas of the district. And so I will have an update today on water efficiency, but also on a number of other areas. And so to give a quick rundown of what I plan to talk about, I will provide first a quarterly analytics report on our digital tools. And then I will cover outreach activities updates for our capital improvement program, volunteer program, water efficiency, community events update, some efforts we've been supporting HR with around recruitment, and then some new internal communications projects as well. And then I'll cover next steps to wrap it up. So first, looking at our digital outreach quarterly report, this is really focused on all of our online tools that we use. First, just to give a snapshot of what our web presence has looked like over the past quarter. That's the May 1 through August 1 timeline. So we've had a total of 144,000 views, which is a little down, but our unique users has actually gone up. We've had 51,000 unique users to our site in the last 3 months. So while they may be visiting less pages, we're actually seeing more and new customers coming to the site than before. And then a couple other just interesting things about these analytics to report. On our top 5 pages visited, we had higher hits to our homepage than in past quarters, but also Parking Passes webpage. That's the webpage that customers go to apply for a watershed parking pass, actually made the top 5 list, which we've never seen before, just to maybe reflect increased interest in watershed recreation opportunities. And then users by device, we continue to watch this one and be surprised about how this splits up. It's not typical that desktop is so high amongst our users. It's the device that our users use the most to access our website, and really important for us to know as we're designing our website, making choices about content, and also how we're choosing to run some of our digital targeted advertising campaigns, especially around some of the newer water efficiency stuff that we've been trying out. So good insights, and we continue to monitor this every
Just
quarter.
a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
Is that trending higher on mobile or is it flat?
It's really been flat.
That's surprising. It
Yeah,
is.
we say about the same split every time.
If there's one thing I learned from Jeff Bezos on page views is that more is not better, right? His whole idea was one click, or Steve Jobs' idea was just with the easiest possible way to get to something. And you in a way, you want to get people the information they need as quickly as possible and not have them have to scroll down and deeper into
Yeah,
it.
and
So,
I don't know that
yeah.
that necessarily is reflecting that in these numbers. I think it also speaks to our customer base, and they're more comfortable on a desktop device than a mobile phone. Our customers are going to access services to make payments, to get customer assistance. So we have to keep some of those things in mind too.
I think it shows that they're getting where they need to get to.
Oh, I
quicker.
see what you're saying. Yes,
Right,
on the
it-
first one, of
yeah.
course, misunderstood you. Yeah, thank you. Then looking at analytics for e-news. So we are just shy of 20,000 subscribers at this time. And we've noted the industry standard open rate at 28.8%. That comes from the MailChimp service that we use for sending out our e-news communications. And so we continue to be much higher than the industry standard on our open rates, something we're really proud of, and why we continue to see e-news as such a critical part of our ongoing communications. And we consistently stay well over 50%. We did see a little bit of a dip in June. We think that it was actually a result of the timing. We were a little delayed in getting that out and sent it out on a Friday and saw it drop down as a result. So we know that the timing of communications really does matter too. And then most clicked articles are our customer success story we featured in May on someone who took advantage of the Cast for Grass program was highest clicked. Our rebates for rain barrels announcement in June was highest clicked. And then in July, our Ratio irrigation controllers promotion we ran was also highest clicked. And then our volunteer opportunities monthly e-blast. So this highlights all the upcoming volunteer opportunities that folks can sign up for. This is a much smaller subscriber list, just over 2,700. We really target that to our past volunteers and also those that we're out having conversations with and our volunteer program staff converse with, who are encouraging to get on the list so that they can be informed of those opportunities. our May and June average open rate for that e-blast was 52.5%. And then we are on pause right now and we'll resume that e-blast in the fall when the program ramps back up with new opportunities.
Yeah, Ben, I don't know if you want to have, is it Suzanne that runs the volunteer programs? Either have her come in or work with Sean to show us how this is going. It's so important. Our community asks about it all the time. And, I was connecting with Sean recently, and, the fact that we're able to get 1,500 acres of invasive species out and the fire grants that we have. And I don't know how much our volunteers are helpful. That's all our work, but it'd be good to, I think the public's super interested.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we typically bring it on an annual basis, kind of an update. So I'll check on that.
Then moving into our analytics on our social media accounts, first looking at Instagram and Facebook. Again, this is for that May to August time period. So we did see our following increase on Instagram. We did 45 total published posts. This is a range of video posts as well as just static posts with visuals. And we've reached over 7,000 individuals on Instagram through that outreach. Our top performing post, both with engagements and actual people who saw it, was a reminder we posted about the upcoming One TAM Peak Health webinar. And it was upcoming at the time we posted it, since passed. And then for Facebook, we're getting closer to 2,000 followers. We posted 53 posts there. And again, those numbers will be different on each account, just based on what the type of content is. Not all posts are appropriate for all channels. And then we reached 4.7 thousand people. Our top performing post was a watershed pile burning notification that we had posted in advance of Pile Burn Day. And then looking at Twitter and Nextdoor, our followers on Twitter are just over 2,700. Excuse me. We've had 37 tweets in the last 3 months for that platform. And then our top performing post there was a closure notice on the watershed for a red flag warning day. And that post received 1,000 impressions, which is quite high for that platform for us. And not surprising that critical fire weather definitely attracts attention. And then on Nextdoor, which continues to be our highest performing social platform, we've got 145,354 members that follow us. Those are actual people in our service area too. So we feel good about that audience that we're reaching. And the total posts for Nextdoor, we've done 23. Our impressions, that's the number of people that have seen our content, is at 285,000 over the last 3 months. And our top post was about our increased rainwater catchment system rebates that we introduced a month or so ago. And then LinkedIn, newer platform for us to start dabbling in. Our following is up. We're at 1,341 followers as of August 1. We've done 11 posts and organic impressions just through normal posting, no extra monetary value applied to any of those posts. We've got 5.5 thousand people who've seen our content. We have started experimenting with some paid posts, really focused around helping HR with some of their recruitment strategies and putting those on recruitment posts. And we saw an additional 18.5 thousand impressions as a result of that. And then our top post, which was one of those sponsored paid posts, was for our recruitment for a supervising land surveyor. And then our top performing post was a post we did to celebrate Drinking Water Week, where we highlighted staff of our water treatment plant.
Yeah, one idea, and Ben, maybe within our culture update when you're talking tomorrow, but you might want to leverage our 200 plus staff members to comment, forward our Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, LinkedIn posts. I find almost always the first and only big on the LinkedIn's, but it's the best recruiting tool I've seen out there. And the more we can leverage our staff to extend it, we do better. They do better. It helps all of us. And and same with board members too, I'd say.
We've definitely been thinking about that more. I know you've brought that comment up before. we're trying to think of kind of some creative and more subtle ways to do that. And I'll get into some plans that we have coming up to maybe help with encouraging or even building awareness that these platforms exist and what the district does to communicate out on them to our staff, because they're not always aware. So getting into our outreach activities update, we'll start first by talking about our capital improvement programs. So one thing that's really important for us priority this year is really making sure we're highlighting where we're investing in our water system with some of these big projects we have going on. There's a number of them. And we've been working closely with the CIP team to make sure that we're following them every step of the way in our communications. And so a few different ways we're doing that. We've introduced a new project identification signage kind of process. And so now every time a CIP project will be starting up, it'll get assigned similar to the one pictured on this slide, which identifies what the project is and just the subtle line of investing in our water system. Just a reminder, it's critical infrastructure and it keeps our water system moving. And then with a unique link to that project webpage, all of our CIP projects have individual web pages that we maintain to give information on the overall investment, the timeline, the purpose of the project, what benefits it brings to the community. And so though we've worked out a system with engineering for how we make sure those get into the actual construction process. And so you'll start seeing these blue signs out in the community. And then another thing we're doing is trying to make sure that we can beef up our construction storytelling. We're going out and trying to capture as many kind of action-oriented field images as we can of projects in progress. And we're also working with our CIP team who are out in the field, capturing photos as well and video so that we can help complement the messaging we're putting out with some of this story, with these visuals, which I think really help to add to the impact and show the magnitude of the types of projects that we're working on. And then we're using as many channels as we can to try to push out that information. We had a nice update in our recent On the Waterfront bill insert where we gave a rundown of all of the projects that we're starting up in the next couple months. And I'll also say one other thing we're doing is trying to, and I kind of said at the beginning, follow the projects every step of the way. The beginning, we in the past have introduced projects. We send out a news release. There's going to be construction impacts, letting people know. But now we're letting, like in the middle of the project, giving updates on important milestones or just giving progress updates on where we are on projects to keep the community informed. And then trying to give nice wrap-ups at the end of each of them once they're complete.
Adrienne, where are these signs going to be put up?
I'm sorry. I did not do a good job
Where are
explaining
the
that.
signs?
Yeah, the signs are going to be placed at the actual construction sites. So we are working with the CIP team to figure out the best location for those. Obviously, we're not always the best to make that decision. So it's a collective conversation looking at the sites. For a longer pipeline replacement project, we might put one on both ends of where the pipeline replacement is occurring. For other types of projects, tank recoding projects, obviously that placement's going to be a little bit different. They're really aimed at targeting passerbyers, pedestrians, those walking by. And so we want to make sure that it's in an area where they can see it and not in the middle of the construction zone where they wouldn't be able to access it anyway.
You might think about the kind of signs realtors use, the ones that have two sides that sit on a little plastic platform. They look like an A-frame. They're little. They sit up off the ground. Realtors use them all the time. I think they're pretty effective. What I'm thinking about is it would be nice to have one at every project. People who are being most what it's about. The second thing I would suggest is you follow Caltrans. And Caltrans is your bill 503 taxpayer dollars at work. You can have something about your ratepayer dollars at work, and I think you should put the value of the project. I think that's useful information that people are interested in. Have something like this is 2.6 million or something, your ratepayer money working to improve our system or something like that.
Okay, yeah, and thank you for those suggestions. We can definitely take a look at that and rework some of the language. We still got time to get some of our early signs going up printed. So thank you.
Cool, thanks.
There we go. I got ahead of myself. Okay. And then another focus area in our capital improvement program is highlighting our Lagunitas Creek restoration project, really big project for the district, grant funded project. And so we've been working closely with the watershed team to put together some really nice educational signs that are placed out near the project site. We've got two kinds. We've got sample pictures of both of them here. Some are on A-frames that'll be movable and move as the project moves. And then we've got these larger billboard style project signs that are actually installed and provide more information, highlight the grants that we've received and acknowledge those who've provided the grant funding to the project. There's timelines on the project included in the signage, and as well as information about the benefits of the project and why we're doing it. And so those are, I believe they may be getting installed very soon if they weren't already posted.
Just a comment here, Adrian. The way that most big projects work is they put the cost of this stuff on the contractor, so it just gets included in the bid price. Something to think about. And I also think that we should have a list of projects by number and say, this is number 42 or number 12 or number 19, and use that number to identify not so much, well, maybe even the Lagunitas Creek rehabilitation, but I'm thinking about the contractor ones, to say this is project 12 on the CIP list or whatever it is, and keep that number like a logo. Keep it on all the signs, 12 or 22 or whatever the number is, so that people can then go to the webpage and say, oh, look, this is project 22 and they're doing it here or something like that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And then shifting focus over to water quality.
So that trailhead that
Yeah.
goes up to the bottom of Peters Dam, where there is an entrance, that's a great place to put these signs for what we're doing in Lagunitas Creek, because you can actually see where we're doing it. You can see some of the eddies that have been created by this work, within 20, 30 feet. So that might be an optimal place to show it.
Great idea.
It's so well done that you actually can't even tell unless you really look and you see the cables and rocks that have been put in.
All right. Okay, so another big project, an annual one we do. It's actually a mandated outreach project, but very important to the district, is our annual water quality report. And we did produce this, our team, in May, working with the water quality lab. It's viewable on our website, but we also make prints of the report, and anyone that requests one, we'll mail it to them. But this is an important tool because we continue to reference it in correspondence with citizens throughout the year, or customers, throughout the year, as does the Water Quality Lab. We did run a bill insert May through June to inform customers that the 2023 report was available, and that they could either request it to be mailed to them or view it on the website. And I will note that this is a bilingual piece, and so we actually make two separate books, one in English, one in Spanish, with all of the same information, and the bill insert goes out in both English and Spanish as well. And then looking at our volunteer and stewardship program, so we've been working on a couple exciting projects with the staff, and really just to look at what we can do to improve kind of our branding and consistency between the materials we send out, but also just help with navigating how to sign up for volunteer opportunities and understanding the different programs that are available throughout the year. And so we work closely with that team to hear from them before we began these projects, which we've done both a brochure redesign and we redesigned the volunteer web pages. But we got input from them based on their experiences with volunteers on where we could make some improvements in these tools. And so we now have a new brochure out, which is pictured here, and the web page is completely redesigned. It has a much easier to navigate kind of design. There's an improved event calendar. And it has updated program information and descriptions, and everything kind of shares the same cohesive look and feel now. And it also matches the look and feel of the volunteer e-blast that we send out each month. And so we're really happy about this project. I think it turned out really nicely. And then looking at our water efficiency efforts, because we have not stopped doing any of that, even though we are focusing on some other things this month in our update. But we did launch a targeted Cash for Grass digital ad campaign. And this was served to about 5,300 residential customers that have properties where more than 13% of their total landscape consists of lawn. And we worked with Carrie's team to put that list together, make sure we were targeting the right customers for the campaign. And the overall goal of the campaign, first primary goal is increase traffic to that webpage, make sure people are aware of the program. It was actually a video ad. Unfortunately, I was having trouble getting the video playing on the PowerPoint this morning, but so this showed up on mobile devices. It also showed up on computer screens when people were online and either scrolling through social media or on online retail sites. And then the campaign ran through June through July. We reached 605,000 people. And we had 1,600 direct ad clicks, and then 121 view throughs, my favorite, where they don't click the ad, but then later they go to the site after they've seen the ad to look at the information. Our performance on this campaign was 4 times the national average, and we have had 44 new applications for the Cash for Grass program submitted since June 1st, which is great. And so one of the things we'll be tracking is from the time that they submit the application, how long to the actual closure of the program do they get through, they get their incentive, or do they, even continue through and follow through to complete the program. And then we are now gearing up for fall campaigns, and Carrie shared some nice maps with you all that we'll be using to help shape the next rendition of our Cash for Grass targeted campaigning. And then looking at some other water efficiency activities, our DIY recycled rain barrel giveaway. This is the giveaway program that we're doing in partnership or in collaboration with EO Products, our San Rafael-based company, who has donated these barrels to the district to give to customers. So I will say this is one campaign where we've kind of scaled back on the outreach. We had to make sure this was a program manageable for staff and also the amount of barrels we were getting per month. This was marketed as a giveaway. We had 220 plus customers sign up, and that was only from doing one social media post and some in-person outreach that we did during the eco-friendly garden tours, which I know during the eco-friendly garden tours, we got, I believe, 26 people to sign up. So all the rest came just from the one social media post. And then 260 plus total barrels have been distributed at this time, with hundreds more that have been requested and are currently in the queue. And we're working through those through monthly giveaways. The water efficiency team is. We are preparing to do another round of outreach on that barrel giveaway program soon, but it's definitely been something where we've had a lot of interest. Now, on our enhanced rain barrel rebate program, we were just getting materials together to launch that program. The last committee update I provided. We did a news release, paid advertising. We did feature it in our e-news. It ran in a bill insert. And we promoted it on social media to spread news of the rebate. So far, we've seen one customer apply since we've launched the enhanced rebate program. We are going to keep monitoring this one to watch for spikes in interest as we get closer to the rainy season. It's a little tricky to promote a rain barrel program in the heat of summer. So, and we recognize that. So we will be continuing to watch this one, and we have more outreach planned as we get closer to the rainy season.
But
around
it takes
the
time to
rebate
install
program
these
as well.
things, and now's the time to get it going. And October, you'll be ready.
Yeah, and I'll get to, we have some plans coming up September, October to do another round of plugs on this. And then we've done some irrigation controller outreach, several different promotions highlighting various summer specials that some of our partners are offering on their irrigation controllers, and then we help to highlight. One of those that was especially great was a month-long July discount that Ratio offered on their irrigation controller, which marked it down to as little as $10 for our customers to purchase. Out of some of that campaign promotion, we did see 144 controllers sold to our customers May through July, which was up from 2023 where we had 114. And then our watershed approach to landscaping classes. This is a partnership program that we do with the college to promote these landscaping classes. We've had tremendous success in helping to promote them before, seeing them fill up and sell out quite quickly. And so we've got a bill insert that started running this month and will continue through September. And we're promoting that in a few other ways and are hoping to see that fill as we've seen in past years. And then looking at our customer success stories, this has been kind of a fun project for our team. Kind of latest action on stories that I've published. I mentioned it earlier, but Marty's story, this featured one of our San Anselmo customers who participated in the district's Cash for Grass program. We did repackage that after it was published to run as a feature in the summer on the waterfront bill insert. So great to continue to maximize use of that story. And then we've got a few different stories on deck, 2 of them that are going to publish here in the next week or so. The first being EO Products story. This one was a little bit delayed in getting it published, but for the better, we've got a really great story that we're putting out. We're happy to put one out. It's about a business. It's our first business focused customer success story, and it'll be publishing this week. It really talks about how they're collecting rainwater for watering plants on their campus. And then it will plug this giveaway program that we're offering in partnership with them. And then Colette's story, this is a new one. Colette is a Mill Valley customer who had a really exceptional CAP appointment and a lot of enthusiasm in talking about it. She also happened to lower her water usage by nearly 60% from the previous year. During her CAP appointment, our staff helped her to figure out an irrigation controller adjustment that was needed. And from that adjustment has seen significant decrease in her usage and in the amount of her overall bill. So we will be running that in upcoming e-news and an on the waterfront issue. So stay tuned to see more on that one. And then we've been busy with community events this summer. Our big event was our participation in the county fair. We did that in partnership with North Marin Water District. And had this interactive home display that's pictured there in the 3 photos at the bottom. It was a big investment of time for the district. We did staff it every day for the 5 days the fair ran, but had some nice engagements out of it. We also sponsored all of the water stations. There were 6 of them placed throughout the fair. and use that real estate to also put some kind of billboard style messaging on there about some of our water efficiency programs, where it made sense for both North Marin Water District and us to partner up on that. And then we've got some more events coming up. We have Ember Stomp September 7th. We'll also be at the Marin Business Showcase September 12th. We're participating in the Marin Senior Fair on September 18th. And then we'll be doing a virtual event, the Marin Green Home Tour, October 24th. And then switching gears to some job recruitment efforts that we've been supporting HR with. We've got kind of a suite of new deliverables that we've helped to put together for HR. And this is really focusing on trying to attract potential candidates to the district by showcasing the district and our benefits and what it's like to work in Marin, kind of in a different way than we have before, and using better imagery, kind of revising some of our messaging within the descriptions. And so this was really a chance to put together templates to help empower HR staff with the many recruitments they're sometimes balancing at the same time. And I think we have 8 different job brochure templates, kind of tailored to each of the types of jobs in the district or for the divisions or departments that they're for. But now HR can take and run with those and use them as they need to. And we've put some other materials together for LinkedIn job posting recruitments as well, that all kind of share that same look and feel, as well as some branded material for some of our other job posting sites. And then we've been busy with some internal communications tools as well. So kind of focused in a few different areas. First, our employee benefits forms. We've had some changes to some of those forms. Some of them hadn't been updated in more than 10 years, but we do have some new changes as of last year. So it was a great opportunity to take a fresh look at them. And so we worked with our HR and finance staff to revise some of the language, just really make it easier to navigate, highlight the benefits that are available to some of our employees. Sometimes you forget when you've been here for a while. And so really it's almost this internal marketing opportunity as well to show some of the things that are available that they may forget about. And then also to make it easier for people to submit benefit forms and for our staff to also process them. These are all online fillable forms now, and they're all branded and consistent. And then we've got another new project that's in production right now. I've got it pictured at the bottom there on the left, and it's some internal signage. This is one of the signs. So we're working on some new informational display board signage, and this gets back a little bit to what you were suggesting earlier, Director Smith, about encouraging staff to be more engaged in some of our social media and sharing and liking things. So we do have very curious staff here. We have bulletin boards, a little bit tired. Some of them just could be reimagined and the space used a little bit better. So we've been looking at how to do that. And we'd like to be able to share when the community is giving us good feedback or asking us questions or helping to share to staff what it is we're putting out about them or about the work they do every day on these sites. And so we're preparing these new boards, at least for the hallway here, where we'll be able to showcase some of that in a more efficient and just cleaner way. And then also just show samples of some of the other outreach materials that we're putting out every day. Additionally, some other internal signage we're working on. We do have a revised mission statement that was part of the strategic plan development process in this past year. And we are working to update all of the mission statement signs around the district at our different facilities right now. So you'll see those soon on the walls of our facilities. And then finally, we are working on development of a new internal newsletter. Super exciting project. This is also something identified on our annual work plan and the strategic plan. It's due out next week. this is just one way that we're trying to work on improving internal communications as a district, and strengthen employee engagement. And to get this project started and shaped, I attended one of the our new internal employee committee, the Ripple team, to get input from them. And we went through a brainstorming session where I asked several different questions to get feedback from them on how to shape this thing. And it was everything from what do we put in it? What topics do we want to cover? What things are important to you to see? What do you want to know about your other employees? How do you think this should be distributed to employees? And it was a really good process. It actually kind of changed the direction of how we thought it might go. And so that was really nice feedback. And we're excited to get this newsletter out this next week, the inaugural issue, and it's called The Employee Impact. And then just a quick look at next steps. So we will be completing a number of the projects I talked about that are in production. We'll be staffing upcoming outreach events that are on our schedule, and then preparing some of those fall campaigns and outreach plans that are in the queue. And then, of course, we'll be monitoring implementation of our various campaigns and outreach plans, assessing the performance of those so we can figure out where we might want to make adjustments for the next round of outreach that we do. And then, of course, we'll remain flexible to pivots and changes that do tend to come up with the outreach needs and priorities here at the district. And then we'll provide updates to this board at our upcoming committee meetings. That's all. I'll take any questions.
Thanks. So your board, no, what an astonishing amount of work. You should take a vacation more often.
I have very good staff on my
Yeah.
team, and we have some good processes in place that are keeping things going.
Well, what I love about this presentation and the last presentation is that what I've seen increasingly over the 2 years that I've been involved here is the district's ability and willingness to make clear goals and then report back on them. And that's such a sign of a well-run, well-thought-out management and process. And it's not easy, and you don't always have to be exactly right in your goals, but you're taking a crack at it and then measuring success. So I really appreciate that. Larry, any comments, additions?
No, just join you. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
One thing that I've had a lot of feedback recently is the work that we're doing on fire risk mitigation and taking out of invasive species. And the more I understand what we have done and the increasing amount of work both through our grants, through the fire grants, and other, maybe let's get through the fire season and hope it all works. But it really is impressive. And the fact that we're doing 1,500 acres of mitigation a year is astonishing. And our customers are seeing it. And I'll bet there's a way that you can articulate that. Not that you need one other communication effort, but really impressive, Adrienne. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll look at that.
Ben, any additions? Okay. Great. Any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Ed Jamison.
Yes, our outreach activities have clearly been outstanding. A real credit to Ms. Merton's staff. In both presentations today, rain barrels may be showing the greatest gains in participation. With a cost of about $78,000 per acre foot compared to 15 MGD desal at $3,100 per acre foot, the rain barrels program is grossly wasteful of ratepayers' money. Since we're pushing rain barrels, people unknowingly assume that they must achieve reasonable water savings, but we know that they just aren't effective in our shoulder season only climate. Rain barrels are a waste of ratepayers' money and not a program that we should be pushing. We should be focusing on other programs that we know to be most effective in spending ratepayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Great. So that was information only, and I will pass that on to the board and in our next meeting. Upcoming meetings, Terry, item 5.
Yes, there will be a Communications and Water Efficiency Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 20th at 9:30.
Terrific. And with that, we will end our committee meeting and we'll move on to our Finance Committee meeting tomorrow. Thanks.